This episode is brought to you by Granola, Brevo, Shopify, and Fabric by Gerber Life. If you're in back-to-back meetings and want to stay focused while getting clear, structured notes, try Granola. You can try it totally free for 3 months. Just head to granola.ai/Kwame. That's granola.ai/Kwame to get your time back. If you're looking to level up your marketing, check out Brevo. Get started today or use code ANYTHING50 to save 50% on starter and standard plans for the first 3 months of an annual subscription. Just head to www.brevo.com/anything to take your marketing further with Brevo and Aura. Ready to launch or grow your business? Start with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/Kwame. And finally, if you are a parent thinking about protecting your family's financial future, check out Fabric by Gerber Life. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/Kwame. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Today's show is sponsored by Strawberry.me. Let me ask you something. Are you truly where you want to be in your career? Or are you waking up every day knowing that you're capable of more, but you're just not sure how to bridge that gap? Most successful people that I know, the ones that lead at the highest levels, don't figure it out in a vacuum. They have mentors and coaches guiding them. I've always said that the most important negotiation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. And for me, one of the toughest self-negotiations that I had to have was unlearning the belief that I could do it all by myself. Early on in my journey, I thought that I had to have all the answers, but I quickly realized that the fastest way to hit a ceiling is to work in isolation. It wasn't until I sought out mentors and professional coaching that I actually learned how to articulate my value and navigate the high-stakes pivots that got me where I am today. And that's why I'm such a believer in what Strawberry.me career coaching is doing. They're removing the guesswork and giving you a direct line to that same level of expertise. What I love about this service is that it gives you the clarity, strategy, and accountability that you need to turn your professional goals into reality. Whether you're trying to land a new job, advance in your current role, or transition into a completely new field, having expert guidance is a game changer. Instead of relying on guesswork or just waiting for the right time, professional coaching helps you to take control of your career trajectory. You'll identify the obstacles holding you back and develop a step-by-step plan that'll help you to move forward with total confidence. It's time to stop waiting. Go to strawberry.me/Kwame and get 50% off your first coaching session. That's strawberry.me/Kwame. It's like therapy, but for your career. Today's guest is an expert at uncovering what is hidden beneath the surface. Mike Reddington is a certified forensic interviewer and the author of the Disciplined Listening Method. He has spent his entire career in high-stakes environments where evidence was often non-existent, and the only way to get the truth was through the power of strategic influence. In this episode, Mike breaks down why you should actually embrace it when people lie to you, because a lie is just intelligence in disguise. We're diving deep into his unique questioning strategy, why you should never accuse someone of lying, and how to give your counterpart the perception of control so they'll lower their guard and share more information. It's time to stop being a shallow strategist and start to earn the truth. Let's jump into this deep dive on disciplined listening with Mike Reddington.
As we were talking about, I guess the art and science of asking people questions, which really should be considered the art and science of encouraging people to feel comfortable and confident sharing the information we need at that time to achieve the outcomes we have in mind. I know you're huge on being outcome oriented. So in that type of environment or those contexts, there's a huge difference between asking questions based on what I think is a good question, or asking questions based on what the other person needs to experience to feel comfortable and confident giving me the information I need at that time. And I feel like a lot of times when people are out there thinking about questions, it's what do I want to ask? And that's a fair way to look at it. I guess plenty of people have been really successful in this world operating that way. But if we stop and think about, okay, what's my goal? What are my outcomes? What information do I need to obtain to achieve those outcomes? Why might Kwame not want to share that with me? Okay, now how do I ask Kwame in a way that helps me achieve these goals by overcoming these obstacles and helping him feel comfortable and confident in answering? And yeah, there's a few more mental hurdles to jump through strategically before we engage. But the amount of time and resistance and problems that we solve on the back end and the more information that we get, a lot of times when we ask questions that way, we end up having to kind of keep a straight face because oftentimes not only do they give us what we were looking for, but they give us so much more because of how we ask the question. And now we're getting all this extra intelligence that helps us make better decisions and build stronger relationships.
This is powerful, man, because you're right. I think when it comes to the questions that we ask, a lot of times it's about the extraction of information. We're saying, okay, I want this answer, so I'm going to ask a question that gets me that answer. And we think about it in a very limited sense, but we don't think about the barriers to answering the question. There's always this this inherent assumption within negotiation and communication where yes, if you ask a good question, you're going to get a good answer. That's not always the case. We don't think about what holds people back, and then we often don't think about what we need to do to create the conditions where the person feels safe enough and comfortable enough to answer.
Create the conditions. That was excellence. Like that is what we should be looking to do in any high impact conversation. You're just what's upping somebody, you're being social with somebody. Okay, fine. But there's a when we talk about high impact conversations, really what we mean is are we having a conversation with somebody in some combination of the value of the relationship and or what we can achieve together is important. Well, then in that situation, I want to create the conditions in order to end up at the result that we want. And I love everything you said. And I'm feeling bold today, so I'd like to see you and raise, and I'll pay the consequences after, I'm sure. But a lot of times when people are looking to extract information, they're not always working to extract the right information. And they're not always sure or on directed, targeted with what they're going to do with it next. So if you're just asking somebody a question, can you do this? Okay. So you're asking a yes or no question. We've all been told about yes or no questions. Let's get beyond that. Let's just say they give you a yes or a no. What do you do next?
Hmm.
So if we'll do negotiations. If this is a manufacturing negotiation and I need to figure out if you can manufacture 5,000 widgets in the next 6 months and have them delivered to my warehouse so I can have them put on trucks and shipped to my customer in 8 months. Really, what I need to know is can I trust that my customers are going to get 5,000 widgets in 8 months if I do business with you? That's what I need to know.
Hmm.
I don't need to know, can you make 5,000 widgets in 6 months? That's not the question. So let's say you want the job. You need it. If I say, can you manufacture six or whatever number I said now in 8 months, 6 months, 5,000 widgets in 6 months, you're going to look at me and say, yep, because you want the job. And because of the confidence that you appeared to answer that question with, I'm going to feel good. But there's all kinds of questions out there that I don't have answered. Or let's say you really could do it, but you might have to shift some machinery around or hire another shift or you contract a new trucking company. Let's say there's another step in there that you're not sure you want to deal with. So I say, can you manufacture 500 widgets in 6 months? And you go, yeah, I don't know. That might be tough for us. Sure, I can come back and ask why, but you're already working yourself down the no road. Instead, if I have that 8 month time frame in mind, and now I can come back and say, Kwame, I know we're jumping into this conversation. No doubt you already have projects lined up, orders lined up. You have your shifts, you have your machines, you have your business running. And let's not even stop and talk about the things that we can't predict happening. So I'm just curious, based on your current job load, labor, and technology situation, how likely is it that your team can deliver 500 widgets to me in 6 months? Or, because I can't help myself, I'm sorry, how many extra shifts would you need to add in order to deliver 500 widgets in 6 months? If you say none, I got it covered. Cool. If you stop to think about it, I know there might be a labor issue. Or if I asked, based on your current work order and shop setup, how many machines might you need to add or recalibrate in order to be able to produce 500 units that I would receive in 6 months. Now, these questions give me a real opportunity to analyze your response, gauge my confidence in the situation, and ask strategic follow-up questions so I can have a really good idea as to whether or not I'm going to get my widgets in enough time to serve my customers.
Mm, mm. I'm incredibly upset that this interview didn't happen about 10 years ago, back when I was practicing law, because there was a manufacturing situation that we found ourselves in, or my client found themselves in this like almost exact situation. Because they asked, "Hey, can you handle this?" They're like, "Of course," and they couldn't, and then
Oh,
they ended up fighting. This is very helpful, and I want to go deeper too, because when you talk about response, you said analyze the response or gauge their response. The way that you are seeing it, I'm betting, is different from the way the average communicator is. So when somebody responds to a question that you pose, what are the things that you're looking for?
great question. I'm going to answer it, but really quick, because you just said that the company told your client yes and couldn't do it. A lot of times when we ask yes or no questions, we're afraid of the no. We should be really afraid of yeses sometimes too. If we accept the yes and walk away without asking qualifying, clarifying, specifying questions, we're kind of getting what we asked for or didn't ask for at that point. But to get back to the question that you actually asked me, if we're real strategic about how we ask questions, then we should have a reasonable expectation based on our experience on how someone should answer. So if I'm talking to somebody and this is a real novel situation for them, then I would expect them to have to think about it and have more ums and ers and a longer time to answer the question. If I'm talking to somebody who's been in this situation for a long time, then it's probably reasonable that there should be less hesitation and more confidence in their answer. If I'm talking to somebody, English is the only language I can barely speak. We've already established that. If I'm talking to somebody who English is their second language or third, it might take them longer to translate and choose the right words and maybe feel confident in how they're responding. So, really, context is king or queen in any conversation. I want to get that out of the way first. But essentially, at the bare bones level, when I'm asking somebody a question, I want to evaluate the totality of their response, both verbal and nonverbal, preferably simultaneously. At the top level, I'm trying to judge their level of comfortableness or confidence in their answer. People might say, well, Mike, your background's interview and interrogation. I'm not looking for truth or lie. It has nothing to do with this. I'm trying to gauge somebody's comfort level with their answer. So one of the things I'll think about is, does the pause match the question? If I ask you what I feel like based on my experience in that given situation, if I'm asking you what I feel like is a pretty direct question and I get a long, unexpected pause, that doesn't mean that you're feeding me a line of BS, but it means I need to be very tuned in to when you actually answer. Is that a well thought out answer, or is that like a carefully crafted, strategically ambiguous answer that favors you? The opposite is true. Kind of like we said, beware of the yes sometimes, beware of the super fast answer. If I ask somebody a question that I think they should have the time to think about and they just boom, answer, well, wait a minute, hang on. Like there was zero thought associated with that answer. Back in the day, we would call that rehearsed anticipation. Somebody rehearsed the answer because they anticipated getting asked that question. So they were able to answer it without having to think about it. A lot of the things that we've been told about truth and lie, and this could be a whole nother 4-hour conversation, but are scientifically untrue. We want to get past that. But what a lot of them do lean towards is our general expectation of what somebody looks like when they're nervous or uncomfortable. All that matters is, how is somebody communicating with me in relation to their behavioral norm? So typically, when you and I communicate, you're relaxed, you're confident, you're thoughtful, you're direct, you're humorous, you're all of these things. Well, now if we end up getting deep into the weeds in a conversation, and not necessarily that you're crossing your arms, because you can cross your arms just because you're in deep thought, but you cross your arms and now you turn away from me and you put your head down and you shake your head no. Well, that's a huge deviation from how you normally communicate with me. So I have to sit back and say, okay, Clearly, I just said or did something that upset him or he didn't expect. Now I need to wait for him to come back and start to answer that question. When it comes to like the verbal response, does the tone match the message? And again, there are all kinds of considerations here. First language, second language, like, did someone just drink a cup of coffee? Is it late in the day? Like, context is king or queen. I can't say that enough. But does the tone match the message? Is somebody giving me a confident answer that sounds like this? That's telling me there's a lack of confidence. It doesn't mean that they're lying, but there's probably a lack of confidence. Are they using specific language? Are they using ambiguous language? Are they equivocating? Am I getting maybe, possibly, probably? Are there hesitation between the words? Does their face or their torso body language match the level of confidence that they appear to be communicating? One of the things that there's no one thing, it's always a puzzle, and we're trying to gather as many pieces as we can. One thing that I love to listen for, and if you're not, we could do another hour on this. If you're not present, and we can talk a lot about what it actually means to be present, besides just telling somebody, be where your feet are, be present. There's a lot more to it than that. But if you're not actually engaged, this was going to be tough to pick up on. But one of the things I love is when I'm having a conversation with somebody and they start to say a word or a phrase, they cut themselves off in the middle and immediately change the word or phrase to something else. So I ask you, here's a question I often do like to ask in negotiations. As we work through the process, how many different people generally like to parachute in at the last second in order to assert their opinion? And as soon as you stop to think about that, I know the answer is at least one, right? You wouldn't have had to think about it. So now, as soon as you stop to think about it, I'm saying nothing. And if you come back to me and you're like, now that I think about it, there's actually there might be a couple. What did I stop myself from saying?
Quite a few.
Yes. So now here's what you know. You know the real answer is more than likely quite a few, whatever that number might be. But you know that at least at this moment in time, I don't think that's the best thing for you to know. So I change it to just a couple. So now, realistically speaking, you know the truth. You know what I want you to believe the truth is. And you know that this moment in time is important enough to me that I'm engaging in impression management. Now you can take all of that intelligence as you think about your follow-up question, which real quick to kind of tie it up, I would not challenge them and say, well, I heard you say quite a few. So what's quite a few? Don't do that. Focus on a couple. They want you to believe it's a couple. So start with a couple and work your way back. And don't ask who they are first. Ask what their concerns are first and work your way from the concerns back to the people.
There's so much to explore. Where do we even start?
Got
So
all afternoon, brother.
this is amazing. So I think a lot of times, again, we can be shallow strategists when it comes to this because we say, all right, I don't like when people lie to us. That's an emotional response because we feel offended by it. And usually our emotions cause us to think in a shallow manner. So we don't want people to lie. And once we catch them in a lie, a lot of times we want to have that gotcha moment where we could say, you lied. And they said, oh my goodness, I'm inferior. You caught me. And now we feel satisfied. It doesn't happen. But you take it to the next level where you're saying, okay, cool, they lied. And now what I'm going to do is I now recognize that they want me to believe something. For some reason, they think that it is bad. What was going to come down the road was going to be bad for them. So they are editing. So you're taking it another step further where you can start to get into their mind on a deeper level and understand their hidden desires, hidden concerns, and what they want to project to you. And all of that is important data. And if you were to jump on them at that moment, then they clam up. They don't feel safe enough to share anymore. Now you don't get access to that data. And this is one of the things that I've noticed with people who are in counterintelligence, law enforcement, especially interrogators like you, where the lies are not something they run away from. It's something that they actually embrace and enjoy because in many ways, it seems like deception gives you much more information than the truth.
Amen. Thank you so much. You hit on so many super important things there. One of the things that I'm on a mission to try to instill in the world is stop getting mad when people lie to you, especially when we're talking negotiation, leadership, sales, interviewing, like business related conversations, especially, but in most contexts. They're not lying to hurt you. They're lying to help themselves. It has nothing to do with you. They are lying to avoid a perceived consequence that they don't want to experience. So why am I taking it personally that somebody else doesn't want to feel discomfort? Our brains are wired to avoid discomfort. That's how human beings work. Stop getting mad when people lie to you. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. So if we can embrace that at the expense of sounding trite or God forbid, arrogant or something like that, I would rather somebody lie to me than not talk at all.
Wow.
I can't do anything with silence. Dude, I've tried. In my entire career, I only ever had two people that flat out refused to talk to me. And I tried for 45 minutes with both, like every card I had in the deck multiple times to get them to open up. And at the end of the day, it's the old Derek Jeter respect, tip your hat. Like, good for you. You kept your mouth shut for 45 minutes. You win. Like, congratulations. But I can't do anything with silence. But if you're lying to me, you're giving me intelligence. And if you're giving me intelligence, I can work with that. And maybe it's now, maybe it's in an hour, maybe it's in a week, maybe it's in a month. But if you're giving me intelligence, I can work with that. You talked about those gotcha moments. Give it up. Winning is when we get what we want in the end. Winning isn't going, oh, I showed you, Kwame. Now you know. That's not winning. That's losing. That's falling prey to our ego in perhaps one of the most dangerous ways. Anytime any of us have said or done something that we would immediately like to have back, it's because in that moment in time, satisfying our emotion was more important than achieving the outcome. You are an outcome-oriented human being. It's why I love your books. It's why I love talking with you. It is so important. If we can stay focused on the outcome, then the lie doesn't matter. Back in the day, and I'm assuming at least a couple of your listeners will remember this, we used to have to read these things called maps to figure out where we were going. You couldn't just ask a computer in your phone to say, take me to Kwame's house. Like, I'd have to get the address, look at it on a map, figure out how to get there. So if we think about using the map as the analogy, when somebody lies to you, that's another set of roads magically appearing on the map for you. So now I have a choice. You lied to me. And by the way, a lot of times when we think somebody lied to us, they didn't. They see it differently. They remember it differently. They have different motivations. They misinterpreted the question. Their mind was on another train of thought. So there's a fair amount of times when we get angry because somebody lied to us and they didn't. But either way, whether they did or didn't lie, I've got two choices. I can continue to try to force you down the road I want to go, or I can look at these roads that you just magically put on the map for me and say, I'll take that one. Because as long as you know where you want to end, it doesn't matter where you go next. I can take whatever road you put on a map and find an exit that gets me to a road, that gets me to a road, that gets me to a road, that gets me to my destination. And if we focus on the destination, the road we take doesn't matter. Our egos and emotions are out. And now I can make it easier for you to transition to telling me the truth.
Agreed. And when you think about this, because again, we talked about the emotional response that we have to deception when somebody lies or we perceive them as lying. How much of that emotionality is attributed not just to the ego, but also expectations, where we expect people to always tell us the truth or what we perceive to be the truth?
That's a huge one. I'll give you a very short version of a long story that I wouldn't expect many people to care about. But 2 years ago, maybe, my wife came home from work. She's a chief human resources officer. She's the brains in our family. She came home from work late and spitting mad, like red face, angry. And anybody that's met my wife knows that she's one of the sweetest human beings on the planet. And trust me, when people see us together, they're looking at me going, really? And they're looking at her going, you did what? She's one of the sweetest human beings on the planet. She was so angry. My son takes a bath and she goes off about how her legal counsel and her, at the time, chief operating officer made her super angry. And so she goes through the whole thing and I'm listening And at the end, I decided to take my life and relationship into my own hands and say, may I offer you my perspective? And she said, yes. And I said, from what I'm hearing, you're not angry because of what they didn't do and because of what you now have to do. You're angry because of the distance between what you expected them to do and what they actually did. And at that point, she looked at me and said, I'm taking a shower. And I thought, I'm walking the dog. We're still happily married, so everything's okay. So you just hit on an extremely important point. Our expectations serve both as our guide and our first filter. So our expectations guide us towards what we want to see and how we think we're going to play from that. And it's also our first filter. So we are judging, we're evaluating everything we see and hear based on our expectations. So I always enjoy talking to you. If you log in and I'm expecting for Kwame to be like, yo, what's up, dude? Let's go. And you log in and you're like, hey, man, like, yo, did I wear out my welcome? I thought this was going to be really positive, upbeat. What's going on? But I don't know. Maybe you've got something going on in your life, right? So we got to be very careful with those expectations. Oftentimes our emotions, especially our like unhealthy or however you want to categorize them emotions, are created because of the distance between what we expected to happen and what did happen. So when we work with negotiators and we work with leaders and sales professionals, we talk about staying out of the entitlement trap. We are not entitled to somebody's truth. We are not entitled to somebody's agreement. We are not entitled to somebody's commitment or actions. We have to earn that. So if I go into every conversation with the mindset that I have to earn it, now I'm more likely to engage with people in a way that resonates and builds genuine rapport and shows empathy and generates trust, as opposed to going in like, I'm your boss, tell me, or I'm the big dog, do it, or I've been doing this for 17 years. So put all that away.
When I started this podcast and built the American Negotiation Institute, I quickly realized something. No one hands you a manual. You're the strategist, the marketer, the operations team, and the tech department all at the same time. Every day, there's a new decision, a new problem, and a new hat to wear. Starting something of your own can feel exciting and lonely. And looking back, having the right tools makes all the difference. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses all around the world and 10% of e-commerce in the United States, from brands just getting started to major household names. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you to build a beautiful online store that matches your brand. It's packed with AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography, helping you to move faster and more efficiently. You can create email and social media campaigns to reach customers wherever they're scrolling, and you can manage everything in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics, without juggling multiple platforms. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/Kwame. Go to shopify.com/Kwame. That is shopify.com/Kwame. Are you ready to take your business's marketing to the next level? Meet Brevo, the all-in-one marketing and CRM platform built to help you connect with customers, boost engagement, and grow your business smarter. With Brevo, you can manage all of your customer interactions in one place, nurture leads with their built-in CRM, and reach your audience through email and SMS, and keep them coming back with powerful automations. But here's where it gets really exciting. Meet Aura, Brevo's AI assistant. Aura helps you craft smarter campaigns by suggesting personalized content, optimizing send times, and even analyzing performance data to help you improve your strategy in real time. It's like having a marketing expert on your team 24/7. And of course, Brevo offers advanced analytics, seamless integrations, and AI-driven personalization. Everything you need to craft multi-channel campaigns that hit the mark every single time. Get started for free today or use code ANYTHING50 to save 50% on starter and standard plans for the first 3 months of an annual subscription. So just head to www.brevo.com/anything and take your marketing further with Brevo and Aura. Earning it versus entitlement, I think that's a game changer, because that's something super easy that you can keep in your mind, because we can feel that entitlement building up inside
Yeah,
of us during the conversation.
yeah,
How dare you lie to me? Right?
yeah.
And then we are off. And to your point, I think that's a really interesting point where you're saying a lot of times when we think somebody's lying, they are not. It might be just be a difference of opinion. But if we approach it as if they are, and we
Mhm.
approach it with that entitlement to truth mentality, and then we get really aggressive and accuse them of lying, now the conversation and the relationship kind of take a big hit.
Over.
Yeah.
If you never do anything again for the rest of your life, please stop accusing people of lying to you. Like, for everybody listening to this conversation, think back for a minute to every time in your life you said to somebody, "You're lying to me," and count the number of times they said, "You're right, I am," on one finger or more. I dare you. It never happens. You force them to double down. I'm not lying, so now I'm forcing them to lie to me more in order to cover for the first lie. Don't accuse people of lying. Focus on the outcome. Try to use the lie to determine the consequence they're likely trying to avoid. Go the direction they want to reduce the fear of the consequence and arrive at the truth in a way that's less, you've said it, confrontational to them.
Yep. And now let's speak to the person who is driving, just white knuckling the steering wheel, just mad. Not because they disagree necessarily, but because they do not like this truth. And so how do we speak to that person and get them to get more on board? Because some folks are looking at it, let's say, through a lens of morality.
Mhm.
Like, I cannot tolerate deception per my perspective. What is deception?
Yeah.
And I will not tolerate that. I need to address it. So they almost feel compelled ethically or
Mhm.
morally to do it.
Mhm.
And so there's this dissonance between what strategically gets them to the outcome that they want, because at the moment they say no, now I need to fight for the truth.
Yeah, and that really is a big one and it's a deep one. And I want to be careful on how I answer it because I'm in no position to tell anybody what their morals should be or their values should be or ethics should be. And for one second, I don't want people to think that that is where we're going with this. That it could be argued that it's a bit of a closed mindset. It could be argued that that is more of an emotionally satisfying mindset than a relationship driving or outcome achieving mindset. But speaking of the word outcome, I'll go back to the Gospel of Kwame Christian and I'll think back to How to Have Difficult Conversations About Race, which is a book I recommend to people all the time, even if that's not the difficult conversation that they're trying to have. Because as you and I discussed, you really wrote a book about how to have a difficult conversation about anything. You just wrote it
That's
about one very important topic.
that's
So
right.
it's about maintaining that outcome orientation. And I try not to come across sarcastic because that is my native language, to the point where now my 8-year-old son has to ask me, "Dad, are you being sarcastic more than once a day?" So I probably need to work on this. But like, does it mean that much to you?
Ooh.
Like, if the outcome is valuable enough to you, then I shouldn't care how we got there. Recently, my wife and I went through a medical situation. All is well, thankfully. Um, we wanted an outcome. The doctor initially proposed something else. The doctor came around to agreeing with the outcome we wanted for a reason that I didn't really like.
Hmm.
But guess what? We got the outcome we wanted. So I can sit there and say, well, I don't like that she did it for this reason, and I don't like that train of thought. It doesn't matter because we did our research and we got the decision that we wanted. How the doctor got there makes no difference to me. So it really comes down to how important is it to you? When we talk about high impact conversations, that comes down to how important is the relationship and or outcomes you can achieve. So quite literally every conversation with my son is a high impact conversation. Every single one,
Hmm.
because I'm trying to do the best I can to create the relationship necessary to raise an adult who is happy and healthy and confident and contributing to society and all of these things. And every little interaction I have with them now is an integral brick in the foundation that builds that. Every conversation I have with my wife is automatically high impact. It could literally be as simple as, did Alabama or Ohio State win last weekend? They both lost.
Both of us lost.
So I just offended you and my wife at the same time. Um, but it doesn't matter. They're high impact conversations because of who we're talking to. Now, I could be, and this happens all the time, talking to somebody who I don't really like. I might not even respect. But the outcome of what I need to achieve with this person is important enough to me that I am polite, I am professional, I am strategic, I am engaged. I let all of their tactics and BS and strong arming and 1980s negotiating techniques slide right by me because I'm focused on the outcome, focused on the outcome. And as long as I got what I needed at the end, then the rest of it doesn't matter. So I honestly believe, and I know I'm repeating myself now, that anytime we say, do, or feel something that in the end proved to be counterproductive, it's because in that moment in time, satisfying our emotion was more important than achieving the outcome. And so really keeping the outcome and understanding the potential value of who I'm speaking with and what I'm trying to achieve can really tip the scales to help us control our emotions. But it's got to be a conscious decision.
Right. And I think that's the big part, Mike, because a lot of folks don't even make that decision or
No,
recognize that they have the decision.
nope.
They just say, okay, this is how I feel in the moment caused by lying. This is how all humans respond under these circumstances. And as a result, I'm going to follow this script,
Mhm.
And so recognizing that you have the choice, I think is going to be a critical part of it.
Yeah.
And when you're let's think about some of the tough situations you've been in too. I actually want to talk about the situations where people don't want to talk to you because that's
Mhm.
an interesting one. Because in your career, you've probably done hundreds of interrogations, probably more. And the fact that only two didn't talk to you means that you're really good at getting people to talk who don't want to talk. And in this era of ghosting, in this era of people who are afraid of having tough conversations, who will give you the silent treatment just out of the freeze response, they don't know what to say.
Mhm.
How do you engage with somebody in a tough conversation or in a relationship where they're just completely disengaged and don't want to talk?
Okay. Great question. So there are, and I'm going to answer it directly, I promise. There are three guiding principles to operating with this disciplined listening approach. The first is to just assume or expect that people have more motivation to withhold information than to share it. Because more often than not, we do, right? So, and let's just face the potentially ugly truth for what it is. More often than not, people have more motivation to withhold information than to share it. Okay, fine. That's the world we live in. So that's one. Two is in order for them to share that information, they need to be able to save face.
Right.
You talked
Yeah.
about like feeling
Yeah.
psychologically safe. And then the third one, I'm now getting into dead horse territory. I need to stay focused on outcomes in order to put the best strategy together. So people are more likely to want to withhold information. They need to save face. And to be successful, I really need to focus on outcomes. So to use that as a backdrop, a lot of this, if we look at the 7 stages of potentially contentious conversations, the first stage we often overlook, which is our previous experience, because we bring all of our previous experience and expectations into every conversation, right? So I at least want to take a second to step back and think, wait a minute, what could be working against me here? And then I want to use that to be strategic about the second stage, which is the introduction. I'll keep my nerd on a leash. There's a research study out of Princeton that shows we're capable of judging 7 characteristics, including somebody's intention, fact check me on all this, please. Intention, integrity, and trustworthiness, I think, are on the list as fast as 100 milliseconds after looking at their face. There's a study out of the University of Glasgow that shows we're capable of judging the same characteristics within 500 milliseconds of hearing somebody say the word hello. And there's a study out of the University of Colorado that shows we're capable of labeling people, classifying them within our previously existing mental models within 150 milliseconds, I think it is, after looking at their face. So for me, the introduction is critical, and I don't want to bore people to death, but to the point that I have influence, what time are we having the conversation? Where are we having the conversation? What's the physical setup of the room? How casual or professional is it going to be? What day of the week is it? Honestly, what am I going to wear? Like, all of these things are important. For me, when I'm very conscious with how I approach people. So we're virtual right now. We've had dinner. You're much bigger than I am. But even if I was walking up to you nose to nose, at some point your spidey senses go off and you start to naturally feel a little defensive as I get closer to your personal space. So instead, I approach right shoulder to right shoulder. It doesn't look like I'm coming at you at an angle, but I'm just off of that offensive direct approach, and I'm naturally in line for the handshake anyway. I'm going to be careful of my gait. I'm going to be careful of my speed. I'm going to smile as early as possible. I'm going to say something as soon as possible. Yo, Kwame, great to see you. Whatever it is, I'm going to try to thin the ice, the tension at the earliest possible step. And I won't nerd out on proxemics, but all that stuff is important. Once the conversation engages, especially at that introduction, I want to be nicer than people expect. And this gets back to, I lied about keeping my geek on a leash, apparently. This gets back to expectation violation theory. But if somebody has potentially negative expectations, the more positive their initial experience is, the more they start experiencing that dissonance you mentioned. And they're like, yo, why is he being so nice to me? Which means I'm winning. Because now they're trying to figure out why I'm so nice. They're not trying to figure out where this is going or what I'm trying to do with them. So haven't interrogated anybody in a while, but the way I used to do it was I would set up the room and I would wait for them in the hall. And then as they were walking down the hall, I would approach them, super friendly, hand extended. Kwame, my name is Mike. It is a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for volunteering to speak with me today. I really appreciate it. Please come on, sit in, sit down, relax. Like, I want you to be cooling out when you come in, not ramping up. Then as the conversation starts, it sounds silly, but I want to be as inviting as possible. I want to invite people in the conversation. I don't want to force them. I don't want to force rapport. Often the harder we try to build rapport, the harder we try to make it look like we have things in common. It's a reverse magnetic effect. We end up driving people away. Oftentimes, one of the better ways to build rapport is if somebody clearly doesn't want to build rapport, don't. You'll actually earn their respect by not trying it at that point in time. If I was to ask you, hey man, just tell me a little bit about yourself. You're like, what do you want to know? Like, anything, man. You know, what makes Kwame Kwame? I don't think that's your business. You're right. It's not. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I just earned your respect instead of trying to force it at that moment in time. If somebody says things like, I don't have to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not sure I want to answer that. I'm not sure I want to talk about that. We should be saying things like, you don't have to. That's a valid point. No pressure. Only share the things that you feel are valuable. Like, by giving them an out, we make it easier for them to talk. Another kind of funny thing from mine, I've been doing all the talking. I need to stop. So one last story, and then I'll give you the microphone back on your own.
No, I reject it. Keep going. Keep going. This is so good.
In my entire interrogation career, I don't know how many people told me I don't have to sit here and listen to this. And to every single one, I would say, you're right. You don't. The door's right there. You can get up and leave anytime you want. And only one person ever got up and left. Most of the time when you tell people you're free to go, they're like, oh shit. Like, okay, well then if I can get up and leave, what do I need to know? What do I need to learn? So if we think about inviting people as opposed to forcing people, this is true with my son. When I pick him up from school and he's clearly upset and I'm trying to get him to talk to me and he says, Dad, I don't want to talk about it. I say, great, we won't. And more often than not, within 15 minutes, he's going to be talking about it. Or worst case scenario, when he goes home and gets food in his belly and pets the dog and get a hug from his mom and he's in a better mood, now we can sit on the couch and talk about it. What's more important, getting him to tell me now in the truck? It's not going to change anything that already happened in his day. I'll find out tonight on the couch. So a great way to get more information from people is when they tell you, I don't want to, I don't think that's a good idea, I don't feel comfortable. Great, no problem. You don't have to. And create another opportunity.
That's brilliant because you're still in the game.
Yes.
And I think we it's almost like we don't have faith in the process or our skills. So we say, this is my only opportunity to get this information or have this part of the conversation, when that couldn't be further from the truth. You are actually recognizing every moment is an opportunity. You have to figure out what the opportunity is. And the opportunity is to deepen the relationship. And sometimes that's respecting their boundaries. And that's incredibly powerful. And then, especially when you think about it, because everybody has to subconsciously justify what it is that they're doing. They're asking, why did I do that thing? If you say, hey, if if you want to leave, you can leave anytime. There's no problem. And then they stay. Then they say, I chose to stay. Why did I choose to stay? Well, it's an interrogation. I'm talking to an interrogator and I could have left. That means I want to talk. So then words are going to come out of their mouth. And let me push you on this because I know for sure this worked for you. I want to talk about power dynamics and gender too, because for you in those scenarios that you gave with your son and with when you're the police interrogator, you have the power, the perception of power and authority in that situation. So you have the power also to create psychological safety because they don't feel safe initially, and then you are benevolent in your approach, and they're like, "Oh wow, he doesn't need to be this way. I can open up." Now, for somebody who might not have as much power, for somebody who might have been a people pleaser in the past or something like that, they might not have that rank. If they are going to be in that same scenario, is there a bit of a danger in being too overly nice?
There could always be some risk in being too overly nice. I mean, let's be honest about that. As I answer this question, I want to tie a few things together. So earlier you mentioned every moment is an opportunity, or you said something along those lines.
Yeah.
So now, if we can go back to the Tao of Kwame, outcome is king, outcome is queen, right?
Right.
If I know what my outcome is, or what the outcome I want is, and I understand that every moment creates an opportunity, now I can have my radar on for unexpected moments that create the opportunity for me to either start or revisit a conversation that helps me create that outcome. But to your point, if I'm in a I need to know now mindset, well, good luck. Sometimes that's going to work. A bunch of times
Right.
it's not. You tell me what your batting average needs to be to feel good about it. And that ties into your point about, what if somebody doesn't have the power? And you're the negotiation expert. So jump in and correct me, slap me down anytime you want with this. My perspective is, generally speaking, there are two prevailing concepts of leverage. And this is where I think a lot of people go to when they start thinking about power and negotiation. The
Mhm.
first one is like, who's the bigger dog, right?
Right.
Title, money, years of experience, how much they can lift on leg day, whatever. Who's the bigger dog in the conversation? The other one, we get back to the Harvard BATNA, right? The best
Right.
alternative to a negotiated agreement, which, no offense to all my Harvard friends, that's a very Ivy League way to say who's got the better plan B likely has more leverage in the conversation. But there's a third one, and that is the ability to influence.
Yes.
And so whenever we're involved in these kind of engagements, if you've got the biggest hammer, you're the big dog, put it in your back pocket and don't ever break it out unless you absolutely need it. If you have the better BATNA, put it in your back pocket. Don't ever break it out unless you absolutely need it. Let's lead with influence. And then we'll get to those other things if and when we need them. So now, if I'm somebody that can't rely on the fact that I'm your boss, I'm the only game in town, I'm the biggest distributor, I'm the, whatever, whatever. Okay, so if I can't lean in that, now I have to be more influential. That means I need to be more strategic. And if I'm going to be more strategic, now that gives me the opportunity to do lots of things. Your talk earlier about every moment creates an opportunity. For the eighth time, I hope I'm actually quoting you right on that. Most of the people we interact with, we have iterative relationships. Like, how many people in our lives do we talk to once and never again? There will be another opportunity. So if I have an iterative relationship with somebody that I know I might have to influence, I better start studying, how do they like to make decisions?
Mm.
Do they like to
Mm.
be confronted with facts, data? Do they like to see other people they respect? What are they doing? Well, I better do that. To keep track of them. Do they like to make fast decisions? Do they need a long time to think about it? Do they need multiple people to present similar ideas? Do they need to feel like they had the final say on an idea by making a few corrections to it? Okay, cool. Then I will flush out a perfectly put together idea, delete a few things, and give it to you. So you can say, Mike, that's close. I think you're in the right direction. But if you do these three things, then we'll do it. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Now you feel like you won, but I got what I needed. So oftentimes when we talk about power and control in a conversation, Power or control, let's start there. Control equates to power and safety. If somebody feels like they have control of the conversation, they feel like they have power and they're psychologically safe. So, what I want to do, and there's risk involved and context cues, of course, but I want to try to give the people I'm talking to the perception of as much control as possible. Because when they have control, their guard goes down. And when their guard goes down, they share more information. And when they share more information, I gather more intelligence. And when I gather more intelligence, I can be more influential in how I process my ideas. The other big point I would say is, especially when we're trying to influence up, so to speak, we don't necessarily have that traditional leverage title, whatever, is to try to give yourself a runway. A lot of times these efforts fall flat because I'm like, well, Kwame's my boss, or Kwame is the EVP of procurement for this giant company that I need to get in with, whatever it is. So I'm going to go have this conversation with them, and I have one swing for the fences and I'm taking it right now. Well, why put myself in that situation? Sometimes it's necessary. It's all we got. Okay. But in a lot of situations, that's not true. So how do I start seeding the conversation earlier? How do I segment the conversation out? What are some of the early wins that I need to put in place? I know you're a boxing fan, you're a martial arts fan. If I want to hit you with that right cross, I got to get you leaning away from that left hook. So over how many rounds am I going to start setting up that left hook without throwing that right cross behind it until I feel like your guard's down, you lean, and now I can throw it? So I want to, over time, set people up to be in the position where now I can influence them, as opposed to saying, I got a meeting with Kwame at 5 and I'm going to go knock this thing out. If that's your only shot, that's your only shot. But way more often than not, it isn't. So now let's build a strategic runway to get from where we are now to where we want to be. And for confidentiality purposes, I can't get into it on air. But my best example was 4 months.
Really?
A 4-month runway. And at the end of a negotiation that I had exactly zero leverage or power in, I got everything I wanted. Now, I'd rather be lucky than good. Don't get me wrong. You and I can talk about it after. Sorry, everybody else. For confidentiality, I can't talk about it on air. But if something means enough to you, then you will give yourself enough runway and create a strong enough strategy and stay disciplined to the plan to get what you want.
So true. You're absolutely right. And first of all, I love the reframe of some of these classic negotiation terms, because they are unnecessarily, annoyingly complex, right? It is just a plan B, right? And the reality too, when you think about power and leverage, essentially those are tools of influence that come from different places.
Yep.
Power is from rank, authority, the more obvious things, but leverage is strategic advantage. It's relative need. But then you brought up a really good point that I never really explicitly considered in conjunction with power and leverage, because those are tools of influence. Influence itself is a tool of influence. And so if you have that, then you don't need the other two, and you only use the other two if you absolutely need it. And you put the right part of yourself forward at the right time. In the majority of times, the stronger the relationship is, the better. The more comfortable you make the person feel, the better. The more they like you, the better. The nicer you are, the better. It might be those times where you need to set a boundary, where you need to say, okay, hey, I'm going to be a little bit more stern here, or maybe then a transactional element of the negotiation where you say, okay, now it's time to drive a little bit more. Then you might need to be a little bit more stern. But outside of that, you can be really friendly without consequence. And so I'm really glad that you addressed that, because I think a lot of times people can see the stereotypical archetype of a negotiator who is, tough and mean and everything. And most people don't really have that in him. And then they say, well, I guess I'm not going to be a good negotiator. No, you can be authentic. You could be nice and create a relationship. In fact, if you do that, that's preferable and better for both parties. As a self-employed business owner, my family depends on me. I think a lot about how I'm going to provide for them, how I'm going to build the business, and how I'm going to support Whitney and the boys. But I had a moment recently where I asked myself a harder question. If something unexpected happened to me, would my family be okay financially? And that's why I got serious about term life insurance and why I looked into Fabric by Gerber Life. Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance you can get done today, and it's made for busy parents, all online, on your schedule, right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required. If you have kids, and especially if you're young and healthy, now is the time to lock in low rates. And even if you already have life insurance through your employer, it might not be enough to fully protect your family, and it probably won't follow you if you leave your job. Fabric has flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget. We're talking $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/Kwame. That's meetfabric.com/Kwame. MEET fabric.com/Kwame. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. If you're leading a lot of meetings, or if you're in meetings back to back all day, you know how mentally demanding that can be. You're trying to stay present, you're contributing, you're thinking strategically, but part of your brain is also tracking action items, decisions, and follow-ups. That's why our team uses Granola. Granola is an AI-powered notepad built for the way real people actually meet. Here's how it works. You take rough notes like you normally would, and in the background, Granola securely transcribes the meeting, and when it ends, it turns everything into clean, structured notes that are actually useful. And what I appreciate the most is that it works through your device's audio. It integrates seamlessly into the video conferencing tools that you already use, and there's no complicated setup. It just fits into your workflow. Granola doesn't replace you in the meeting, it augments you. It lets you lean in, focus, and listen deeply while still walking away knowing exactly what was deciding, who owns what, and what comes next. Before Granola, our team would spend extra time cleaning up notes and double-checking details. Now, we leave meetings aligned and clear. It saved us time and helps us to operate at a much higher level. If meetings are eating up your day, Granola is a no-brainer. You can actually try it completely free for 3 months. Just head to granola.ai/Kwame. That's granola.ai/Kwame to get your time back. Get 3 months free at granola.ai/Kwame.
Absolutely. Focus on what you do have, not what you don't have. Please don't sit there and say, I don't fit this profile, so I'm not going to be good at that. No, it's this is where I think my strengths are. This is where I think I operate the best. So now how do I use this to get good at that? And how do I create the context or create the elements? You said it better than me a little while ago, but how do I set it up so this works better for me? And this is my bias, and you can shoot me down for this too, and so can anybody else, and I'll totally accept it. For me, if I'm negotiating with somebody or in any type of engagement with them, and they come right out of the gate acting like the tough guy, my immediate reaction is you have one tool in your toolbox. And as soon as you realize that's not going to work, you're in deep water. So all I have to do is be calm. And the longer I'm calm, the more the person across from me is going, shit, how come he's still calm? This is supposed to work. This is supposed to give me what I want. It's not. Okay, cool. Well, now we'll do another boxing analogy. Now that you're tired against the ropes, I can start opening up. So I know it's easier said than done for people that haven't been in that situation a bunch of times. And thankfully, coming from the world of interview and interrogation, especially oftentimes having no evidence, which is where this influence as a tool of leverage really comes from. Just if somebody is being the bully, think about it this way. If somebody's being the bully, number one, it's likely the only tool in their toolbox. So just ride the wave till it crashes and you're good. Number two, recognize that it has nothing to do with you. They put on the mask that they think they need to wear to get what they want from this conversation. So if you can just think about it as they just put on the only mask they have to get what they think they need, now it's not, he's trying to take advantage of me. He's trying to rip me off. He's lying to me. No, he's playing a role. Right. And now that I just recognize he's playing a role, I can go into my playbook and figure out the best role to play in order to work, not against it, but with it and end up where I need to be.
Okay. This is I agree 100% with what you said. There's the one thing that I need to double click on because I know the audience wants me to, and I know it'll make a really sick social media clip afterwards.
You're just using me for social media, man.
I am. Okay. So, how do you get a person to confess without any information or evidence?
Great question. And contextually, there's going to be some differences in things. So, as a general guide, in order for somebody, okay, I'm answering your question directly. I'm going to circle to it.
Yeah.
If you think about a confession, which you're truthful, I want for all my friends in the scientific and law enforcement community out there, if you think about a truthful confession, that is what we're focusing on. Somebody tells you the truth about a regrettable decision that they made. Okay. What you are asking them to do is share sensitive information under vulnerable circumstances in the face of consequences. Now, if you are a parent, a leader, a negotiator, a sales professional, an interviewer, almost any time you're engaging with somebody about a legitimate topic, you are asking them to share sensitive information under vulnerable circumstances in the face of consequences, which means that dozens to hundreds of times a day, we are all essentially asking somebody to go through the same mental gymnastics that an interrogation suspect would before they choose to tell us the truth. But we don't appreciate that. So to completely go full circle to the beginning of our conversation, we ask questions in ways that generate resistance instead of reduce resistance. But to bring that all the way back to the question you actually asked me, more often than not, people will tell the truth when they believe the truth either is already known or will soon be discovered. They have the opportunity to save face, and they believe the person who is asking for the truth is credible in the situation. With those three things in mind, essentially what we need to do is find a way to establish credibility and help them save face in order to help them feel comfortable sharing the truth. So in cases which my former teammates and I, when I say we almost never had evidence, we almost never had evidence at the expense of offending a few of my former teammates. You'd be surprised who came off the bench when all of a sudden you had a case with evidence. Suddenly they're available. But I love you guys. I'm going to get hammered for that, by the way. You can leave it in. So what we want to do is we want to look at the context of the situation. And one of the mantras, if you will, that I really tried to focus on, two mantras that I really try to focus on. One is focus on what you do have, not what you don't have. So I can sit here all day and say, I don't have any evidence. Or I can sit here and say, well, what do I have? Like statistically speaking, access, knowledge, availability. Like, how do I take 1,000-piece puzzle and make it a 500-piece puzzle? If I can do that, then, I'm making headway. So focus on what you do have, not what you don't have. And the second is when it comes down to actually having conversations with people, don't build your conversation strategies based on why you think they should tell you the truth. Build your conversation strategies on why you believe they shouldn't tell you the truth. When I'm strategizing for, and I haven't done this in a long time, but when I strategized for an interrogation with no evidence, I asked myself the same strategic preparation questions that I still use today to strategize for my negotiations, sales conversations, leadership conversations, any important personal conversation I have. The first question, and I'm old school, so I'll get a pen and paper. I know some of you are all into AI and technology, but I'm a bit of a caveman. So I'll get my pen and paper. And the first question I ask myself is, why shouldn't Kwame share this information with me? And then every reason I can think of based on what I know about you, the situation, your job title, the business, the investigation, whatever I know, right? I mean, it's operating off statistics and probabilities, but what are all the things I can think of, reasons that Kwame would not tell me the truth? Boom, I write them down. That's present tense. Then I have to say to myself, okay, why hasn't Kwame ever told somebody this? Now, I'm making some assumptions here, right? So I'm not saying that this is scientifically accurate, but now I'm going to say, okay, well, based on what I know about the situation, why hasn't Kwame already said or already done this? So now I have what I believe to be a reasonable list of present and past tense reasons why you shouldn't and haven't done whatever this thing is that I want you to say or do. Then I look at that list and I say, okay, what does Kwame have to experience before he chooses to say or do what I need him to do? And now I'm going to craft an experience based on all of these things that are likely reasons why you shouldn't want to do it. Then we deliver that experience. It could be one conversation, could be multiple conversation, depends on it. So there's elements of strategy, right? What do I say in what order over what period of time based on the context of the situation? So it literally nearly every sentence is thought out as we put it together, but the same strategy holds no matter the context of the conversation, professional or investigative. Did I manage to answer your
Oh,
question in a way that's
man,
helpful?
that was so good. That was so good. Because again, when we think about just general communication strategy, but of course negotiation in particular, that is so different. So different from the way that we typically approach conversations. So it's a big time paradigm shift. So especially when you think about the deception, okay, how do I craft that experience that they need in order to feel comfortable enough sharing? But also when it comes to the offers that we make, the things that we want people to do. So how do we craft that experience? It's a completely different way of approaching it, and it's such an art form. I love this. And Mike, I could talk to you about this forever, but I know Simone has been listening intently, and I know he has a question for you.
Mike, you just said that it is okay if someone lies to us in a negotiation, that it should be taken as data. But my question is, what should we do after someone lies to us? What's the next step in the negotiation process?
All great questions. And I'll give you kind of a broad answer. And if either one of you want to throw out a specific example, I'll be happy to work through a specific example. If either one of you want to throw one out, I'm totally happy with that. But to answer the mindset question first, the healthy mindset is I'm gathering intelligence. So if I think you just lied to me, I'm already losing. Because maybe you did, maybe you didn't. So I'm making that judgment in and of itself. But now, Kwame, to your previous point, I'm generating all these negative emotions and acting as a result of those emotions. So the mindset is I am acquiring intelligence to help achieve a goal. And the goal eventually is the truth, I'm assuming, in the context that we're talking about. So that's the mindset. When it comes to what do you do next, oftentimes, at least initially, what I want to do is travel in the direction of the lie. So if you're thinking about it, like if I'm in downtown Columbus and I'm trying to walk to the hockey game, and I don't even know if the arena's in downtown Columbus. I should probably pick my references better. We're good. It's in downtown Columbus. So I'm walking to the hockey arena, but I'm late. I got a terrible parking spot. So I got like a 7-block walk to the hockey arena. So I start walking. In 6 blocks into this walk, some dude comes out of a building and says, "Hey man, where are you going?" I'm like, "Yo, I'm going to go check out the Blue Jackets." He says, "Yeah, you're going the wrong way. You need to turn around and walk 13 blocks the other way." I might not go to the game, depending on the day I've had. I might walk the 6 blocks back to my truck and go home, right? So I don't want to do that to somebody. I don't want to take someone who's trying to travel in one direction, throw the air brakes on it, contradict their self-image, and force them to go the other way. Instead, I want to initially travel in that direction and then loop my way back. And when I loop my way back, maybe it's now, maybe it's in 10 minutes, maybe it's tomorrow, depending on the situation. Like the whole I gotcha, did it lying moment thing, like that needs to go away. That's not helping relationship. I don't do that to my son. Anytime he's an 8-year-old kid, and honestly, he's probably too honest for his own good most of the time. But when he does lie to me, he's doing what an 8-year-old kid should do. I'm trying to find the boundaries. Where can I push? That's what kids that age are supposed to do. So I don't want him to be afraid to talk to me. I want him to be open, comfortable talking to me. So when I'm pretty sure he's lying to me, I just go in that direction. A couple of ways to do that. Oftentimes, and this is going to sound potentially silly, I might say, "Simone, Thank you very much. I wasn't aware. Thank you, Simone. I appreciate you letting me know. Thank you, Simone. I appreciate you explaining. Or depending on the situation, I would do this more in interrogation than out of interrogation. But one of the things I used to love to say is, thank you, Simone. That's a great place to start. Because that kind of gives people the, oh, wait a minute, like we're not done here thought. Use that one judiciously, please. Like context is king, make the right decisions there. But a lot of times what I want them to do is I want them to keep talking. Because if they keep talking, I'm going to get more intelligence. And they have to start making decisions, right? Where do you double down? Where do you change your mind? Where do you change your story? How can we loop back? So what I'm listening for is I'm listening for bridge opportunities. Where can I use words that you say, your literal words? Where can I use words that you say to bridge into what I want to talk about? And again, maybe it's now, maybe it's in a half hour, maybe it's tomorrow, but I want to be able to use your words. So, Simone, maybe you say something like, I don't know. I'm going to try to do this more business related than investigations related, but maybe you say something along the lines of, the project will be done by Thursday. But the way you say it to me makes me feel like, based on what other people are telling me and the way you just said that, I don't really think the project's going to be done by Thursday. Maybe you said it like this. Well, hopefully everything goes the way it should. I'll have the project done on Thursday. We can translate English to English as that ain't going to get done on Thursday, right? So if I attack you for it, I'm just going to make you more defensive. But now if I say, Simone, thank you very much. I appreciate you bringing me up to speed. I'm going to travel in that direction. He just told me if things go to plan. So now I'm not going to, and I probably need to come back and replace the initial question for everybody to begin with so we don't get lied to. But so now I can come back and say, thank you, Simone. I appreciate you bringing me up to speed. If we're hoping that everything goes to plan over the next 2 days or so, I'm curious, what would be the 3 opportunities that things could, let me say this in actual English. If we're hoping everything goes to plan, where are the 3 opportunities for the plan to fall apart the fastest?
Oh, that's good.
Because now this is no longer about you, it's about the plan. And the question lands differently. Because Kwame, you asked me earlier, what am I observing for? If I just say to you, so do you think the plan's going to stay together? Oh yeah, man, it's my plan. It's a great plan. It's going to stay together. Are you worried the plan's going to fall apart? No. It's a good plan. It's a good plan. We're good. We're hoping the plan follows through. What are the 3 opportunities for the plan to fall apart the fastest? Because I asked you for 3, I'm asking you to think about 3 things. So if the answer is none, I have it all under control. You shouldn't have to pause or hesitate. You should be like, none, dude. We got this. Thursday. I told you. But as soon as you go, oh, I'm going, oh. Now, I'm not saying anything. I'm going to let you come up with something. And I don't care if it's real. I don't care if it's an excuse. It doesn't matter. Think about it like a ratchet wrench. And if you're not a mechanic, a ratchet wrench is a leverage generating tool where I wind the wrench back one way and then one little click at a time, I can turn the bolt the other way. So now if I think about this questioning strategy as a ratchet wrench, the big wind back is what are the 3 opportunities for the plan to fall apart? And now each little question after this is just one little tweak on the ratchet wrench. Whatever you tell me next helped me get closer to the truth. And it's not about you falling behind, not managing your time, not prioritizing. We might need to fix those things, but not till after the friggin' project is done on time. So I need to prioritize, get the truth about where we are and what could go wrong. And the best way to do that is to help you save face. And I'll wind up the rant with this. So if I take the question you asked in the example that we just sort of made up, and then tie that back into what you asked me earlier, Kwame, about getting people to give us information without evidence. One of the things that I know you and I have talked about before is the concept of illustrate before you investigate. So I want to illustrate my understanding of the situation to help reduce your resistance before I investigate with the question. So I could say, Simone, I know you've been working really hard for this client, and unfortunately, one of the unspoken rules about our business is the client gets to change the rules in the middle of the game, but we don't get to move the deadline. So I'm just curious, considering all the hoops we've already jumped through, what would be the 3 biggest obstacles we still need to clear to get the project done on time? You ask the question that way up front, they're not going to lie to you. Now you use that little ratchet wrench strategy, you take your time, and over the next 5 to 10 minutes, you can put together a plan to adjust your resources and scheduling to make sure the project is done on time. Whereas if I say, Simone, you're going to get that project done on time? That's about you. And the implied expected answer is yes. And you don't want to seem bad in front of me. So to avoid embarrassment, you're going to say yes and hope that A, I go away, and B, you figure out how to get it done on time. So instead of forcing you to lie to me, again, to go full circle, how about I think about the outcome I need to achieve, who I need to achieve that outcome with, the context of the situation, and ask an initial question that is far more likely to get me the information I want without sparking unnecessary resistance.
Wow. Wow. And I have another question for you
Yeah.
guys, because this is done in negotiation too, Kwame. Sometimes we perceive that someone else is asking us a question and they know the answer, but for some reason, they are asking that question. So it's like, why someone would ask a question if they already know the answer, because that makes someone feel like, oh, it's like trying to attack me or trying to play with me. What do they do it?
So you raise a great point. Questions can be perceived as invitations or attacks. And you can imagine how people are going to react if your question is perceived as an invitation versus an attack. So I have to make some assumptions here. And forgive me in advance if anybody is upset with my interpretation. I feel like if somebody is asking questions that they already know the answer to, it's generally for a couple of reasons. Number one is to let you know that they know. It's an ego play. It's a leverage play. It is trying to restack the deck a little bit. Could be a power move, so to speak, where they're trying to change the dynamic, the climate, the vibe of the conversation. So that could be one. The second could be they're trying to test you. They're asking you a question, and this is your classic Law and Order example, right? I'm asking you a question I already know the answer to, because how you answer that question is going to help me assess your integrity and your willingness to work and your truthfulness and all of those things as well. I think we can probably throw a third one on there too. And Kwame, you could speak to this much better than me, but it gets back to some of these age-old stereotypical negotiation techniques that people have been taught that are supposed to create some sort of mythical advantage somewhere along the way, but create far greater risk than the actual reward they can produce. So as a general rule, I would say avoid asking questions like that unless it's for like an express strategic purpose. So I'm trying to do a different example. We did manufacturing before. Let's go software. And let's say that I know that you have 200 to 225 employees, and my software licenses are typically for like 150, 250, 500 people, and there's price points at each one or whatever. So I've done my research, and so now I ask you, so just to make sure we're on the same page here, how many employees do you envision as end users for this software? Now, if you and I have a great relationship, maybe you don't take that as an attack because we've talked before and you're just clarifying whatever. I guess we could put that as a fourth or clarifying question. But if we don't have that kind of relationship, you could immediately be like, wait, are you accusing me of pirating software? Do you think I'm going to lie to you? Do you think I'm going to tell you I've only got 100 people? I'm going to get 250. So now I start getting defensive. I start getting angry and I start questioning your integrity. So a better way to ask the question could be, often when we're engaging with new clients, it's important for us to try to stay in tuned to their planned or anticipated growth or scaling strategies. We understand with our licensing agreements that we would like everybody to stay under the number, but the real world that operates, it might swing a little bit one way or the other. However, our priority is to stay ahead of any anticipated needs. So I'm just curious, we don't have to worry about the 250. Looking at your current growth plans, how long do you think it might be before you have 300 end users? Now you come back and you're like, oh, actually, we're currently talking about potential acquisition. It could be in 6 months. Or you come back and say, dude, I've got like 197 people now that I can't manage. I don't want 300. And I just got the number I needed, 197. I'm good. Let me sell you on 250. And maybe I'll negotiate a little bit out of quote good faith because I know you got less than that. But if we ask the questions in a strategic manner that like within the question is a reason for somebody to answer it, now you don't feel attacked. You feel invited. There's a legitimate reason to ask the question in regards to the relationship we're trying to create. You can give me an honest answer and we can move forward.
Yep. Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And Mike, one of the things that keeps coming to mind for me as I'm hearing you is that, yes, nobody really, other than police interrogators and counterintelligence folks, nobody likes being lied to, right? Just on a baseline. But so many times we kind of create the conditions for deception, where we put the person in a corner where the only way they can escape that corner while still saving face is deception.
Amen. You nailed it. I can't tell you how many clients I've initially made unhappy in investigations or other consulting roles where they tell me what happened and why they're so angry at the other person and what they want the punishment for the other person to be. And my answer is, let's step back. Let's understand how we got here. And it's unfair to armchair quarterback, right? Maybe if we did all of these other things, we would still end up in the same place. And it's important to acknowledge that. But the statistical probability of getting a more truthful answer or a more actionable answer or an answer that lines up a little bit easier with our morals and ethics is the odds of that are so much higher when you put these types of disciplined listening approaches into the conversation. And all too often, we think about, so I don't know that this is great English, but if you're going to ask somebody a yes or no question, and if the answer is yes, you go on with your life. But if the answer is no, you need to ask a follow-up question. Ask the if, no, then what question first. Don't ask the yes or no question. Ask the question you would have asked if they said no. If the answer is yes, they'll give it to you anyway. Are you going to make the deadline? Yes. Well, maybe you will, maybe you won't. What are the 3 biggest obstacles that could stop us from making the deadline? None. We're good. Okay, well, that's the yes that I wanted. But now because I asked the question I would have asked if they said no, I relieve that part of the process.
Okay. And so now I have a tough question for you, and I don't want you to lie about this one. Okay. So if somebody wanted to understand how to listen in a more disciplined manner, what would be a good resource for them?
Disciplined in listening. Where should I go with that? So there's a book that I've heard about called The Disciplined Listening Method, How a Certified Forensic Interviewer Unlocks Hidden Value in Any Conversation. And that book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and direct from the website. But in all seriousness, I appreciate you asking. We've talked a bunch of times before, but we wrote the Disciplined Listening Method by integrating behavioral science, non-confrontational interview and interrogation techniques, and business communication best practices to literally deepen the understanding of all the topics we talked about today and beyond, and then put frameworks and examples in play to unlock this hidden value that's lurking in all of our relationships and conversations to help us make better decisions, arrive at stronger agreements, build stronger relationships. So the Disciplined Listening Method is the name of the book. I don't think you mind me sharing that my podcast is called I See What You're Saying, the Disciplined Listening Podcast. You've been on it once, maybe twice. I'm going to have to strong on you to come back on it again at some point. I know you're taking the world over. So when it fits in your schedule, you can come back on. Well, we have lots of conversations with super smart people about similar topics. DisciplinedListening.com is where you can go to learn more about all of that. MichaelReddington.com is where you can go to learn more about the programs that I facilitate. Inquasive.com is where you can go to learn more about the programs my company facilitates for our clients. And if you want to connect on social media, LinkedIn, it would be the place to find me. And I promise you that if you shoot me a note and you say, I was listening to you on Negotiate Anything with Kwame and I had this question or this idea, I will respond and I'll be very happy to continue the conversation with you.
Amazing. Mike, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for coming on again.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you very much for having me back, man. I've been looking forward to this for weeks.